So what you gonna do, brother? We about to run wild with a style like no other. So somebody call Brodus Clay mother and tell her Richard runs on the men like Ed Lover and Doc Dre. What Scott say, what they hang on every word like it's something that the Rock say. No JR, but they talking wrestling. We bring the noise with the boys, so we Dalton Castling. So masculine, oozing machismo, mutton chop shop, Gran Turismo. No free throws, snarl hoops and heels. It's D-Bron's retirement, give you the super feels. Straight shoot, it's real. Drop a pipe bomb, get rid of the bull like the Rock's right arm. So stay calm, tranquilo. I'll go 9-0 and give them Destino. And we know that you chumps ain't ready for the heartbreak runs and the Cuban Genetti. They drop it heavy, tag team it like Teddy. Long go strong with the heat like Eddie. So steady like when Taker walked the tightrope. Spaz like Taz with the mic in a tight choke. Dirtiest player in the game with the eye poke. 1988 Macho Man on a lot of coke. These other cats are a waste, they boring. Illegitimate sons like Jason Jordan. And Richard Runz never give him respect unless they going on air with a broken frickin' neck. So bounce like Papa Pump's pecs. Every time they get down, they bound to catch wreck. Y'all don't know nada. They the Okadas, you're the Washington Generals, they the Globetrotters. A whole lot of podcasts in the scene, but Richard Runz running wild is the cast of your dreams. So it seems these two is too sweet. Bullet Club pulling up with schemes to delete. So retreat, we steal, we cheat, but I never lie, I swear on these beats. And these two got some styles for you, but what you gonna do when they run wild on you?
Oh, hell yeah. It's the Big Dog Red Titus. And you're listening to the Running Wild podcast. Because if you're trying to run wild, this is the place to do it.
Do you want to let everyone know that you get it? Do you not want to be a Melvin? Well, then listen to the Running Wild podcast. And if you don't, you know what you are.
I'm the last real man, Silas Young. And if you're any kind of man, you'll be listening to the Running Wild podcast.
Hi guys, this is Mandy Leon, and you're listening to the Running Wild podcast.
This is Sam Adonis, El Seguro de las Chicas de CMLL, and you are listening to the Running Wild podcast.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Running Wild Podcast. I'm your host, Rich. Alongside me, as always, my co-host, Runz.
Yes, sir.
And welcome to just a whole slew of listeners that we got last week. Apparently, after doing this for 2 years ourselves, we didn't know that all I had to do was ask my 3-year-old son to be included in the episode, and we would, I actually don't know the mathematical term to describe how many more listeners we got this week than the week before, but super excited that you guys are aboard. But we have a huge episode. I will warn you, Charlie is not on this week's episode. We're saving him for prediction episodes only. I mean, we just can't be, he's obviously the star here, but we're not going to pull him out every episode. So you guys got to listen to him. He's basically Brock Lesnar, exactly. This is amazing. All right, so we're going to talk about the big week of Ring of Honor's War of the World Tour. We're going to talk about Monday Night Raw, and we're going to talk about All In. So do you want to get started with the All In news, or what do you think?
Sure.
All right, so All In went on sale. As we're recording, it actually went on sale about 2.5 hours ago and sold out, just to be safe, let's say 50 minutes. Did you think at all that this would happen this quickly?
As they announced it, leading up to today, I didn't. But, when they announced it, I was like, oh, these guys probably have, millions of followers. And I'm sure a lot of them would be willing to travel to the show, no matter where they are. So that's when it kind of hit me I wouldn't be shocked if this thing sold out immediately. And that's basically what happened, coming in under an hour, 45 minutes, whatever it was. Hats off to them. That's amazing. And I hope, it's different if this is, done every other month or something like that. But if this is a WrestleMania weekend sort of event that, starts to pop up where it's once a year, I don't see any reason why they couldn't do more.
Yeah, this is unbelievable. They've only announced one match, which was actually announced today. They had a press conference. And
forget about, right, so they've announced one match, and they've announced, 10 people who are going to be there. They haven't even, you don't even know who's showing up. And I think that's part of, the lore people are like, oh man, who is actually going to be there? But yeah.
Yeah, they said, so the one match that's announced was actually Billy Corgan came out and announced that the NWA Championship would be defended by Nick Aldis against Cody Rhodes. So that's pretty cool. I mean, we talked about it off air, but it's a chance for Cody to win the title his father had.
Yeah, and I mean, like, at his show, it would seem like the smart and logical choice to allow Cody to hold that title and be able to say that he's holding the same title that his dad had and, run with that a little bit. It's great publicity for the NWA, and it's an amazing moment for Cody. So, I think that should be where that goes.
It could really happen.
So, I mean, I don't see any reason why it doesn't. It's not like the NWA is WWE. They're trying to restart that. So, giving that belt to Cody, and then Magnus can always win it back, or they can feud over it. Whatever, you can go plenty of different directions. But I think the moment is too good to pass up.
Did you see any? I mean, I know you saw the news of the press conference. Did you get to see any of it?
No. So,
first of all, big news is Rey Mysterio is announced for All In as well, which is just ridiculous. I mean, they just keep adding every name. And Mysterio, I mean, this dude is going to be at Dominion. He was at the Greatest Royal Rumble, and now he's going to be at All In. He's going to be like 3 of the biggest shows, outside of, I mean, really, including WWE this year. It's kind of crazy. If you exclude, of course,
he was at the Royal Rumble, too, and he would have been at WrestleMania if he didn't get hurt. So, he's all over, which is kind of crazy, because, like, it's not like Rey Mysterio hasn't been wrestling for the past however many years since he left WWE, but his resurgence is pretty crazy, and it's cool to watch.
And then there was a cool part of they called up a guy from the press who had like this ridiculous mustache, and then it ended up being Flip Gordon, like trying to ask why he wasn't getting booked, and then they exposed him. So that was pretty spectacular. I know that he's probably going to get booked, and that they're just leading to it, but man, I love the idea that he might not actually get booked. Like there's a part of me that wishes he wouldn't.
Right, I think it would be great if it was like Virgil and Janela's show where he just snuck out, similar to this. He was in the disguise, or he came out as like a mask jobber or something like that, and it led to something on the show. I think that would it would be good comedy. It would be a good, little spotlight for Flip and this whole thing that they've been building.
I'm a little surprised though with the announcement of Cody and Aldis that. We had talked about earlier, like the idea that they might settle some more of the Bullet Club issues at All In. That seems like it's not going to happen at all.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess in a way it's, I don't know, kind of like, it feels like the dust has settled on it a little bit, but obviously it hasn't. But with Kenny challenging Okada and, not being in Ring of Honor and Cody just doing his own thing in Ring of Honor, it's a little bit strange.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we'll talk about it as we get into the War of the Worlds reviews, but, Cody did kind of call out Omega a little bit during his match, so that's definitely not died down, and you still have some issues with Skrull and Cody also.
I guess, I wonder if by September, there's a little more finality to it, but I'm not sure, what big shows are between now and then, especially with, Kenny challenging Okada at the next big New Japan show. I'm not sure where that could really fall in.
That's Dominion, right?
Mm-hmm.
June 9th, I think. So I think you still have the possibility of, at Best in the World, maybe something happening as well, developing
that would
maybe
make sense.
Later in the year. I forget the name of the September pay-per-view right now. It's escaping me, but we could have something after All In as well.
Right, and with Kenny with Ibushi, or with Kenny and Okada, Kenny and the Bucks, you can go a million different ways for all of those guys at All In. So it's really going to be interesting to see what card they throw together and who else gets announced and added to this.
100%. So what did you think of overall the tour as a whole, the War of the Worlds tour?
I enjoyed War of the Worlds. I just, I wish there was a little bit more star power. Castle being hurt, obviously, took the title off of these shows, and that hurt it. But looking at these shows beforehand, Castle wasn't in any real main big marquee matches. He had the match with Taven. Then what? He was fighting Flip in non-title, right?
I think so, yeah.
Something like that.
And he was in a four-way
tag match. Yeah, so I don't know. I wasn't thrilled by, where he was on these shows anyway. And then you see some of the clips, and I know it's a different time, but you see Nakamura and Owens. And, that's like the spotlight where I want to see Castle on these War of the World shows. Why couldn't he wrestle Sonata or Naito or, Evil? He could have wrestled, if he was cleared. Obviously he didn't. But I would have liked to see those type of matches announced for these shows, just before watching them. Watching them, I enjoyed the shows. They were fine shows, but I wish there was a little bit more, like I said, star power. I would have loved to see Okada. I would have loved to see Tanahashi, those type of guys, or LIJ not just in 8 and 6-man tags. Who did Sonata fight on?
He was part of the 4-way.
But okay. So it was the 4-way or something else. He was just, I enjoyed seeing them on their own. So I don't know. I would just like to see more of that. Like the Briscoes against Naito and Bushi in the main event. That's not a main event. Naito and Bushi aren't winning the tag titles from the Briscoes. You do nothing after it. I was just a little disappointed by some of the main events, and they got dealt a bad hand. I get it, but you should have been able to have something else able to fill that spot.
It's weird. I think I'm, since I've been watching Ring of Honor more closely and watching the War of the Worlds shows, I've never really been super excited about them. Now I know the New Japan talent a little bit more, and I'm more familiar with them. So I love guys like Naito, and I think Kushida was really missed on this set of shows. Mm-hmm. He's normally a stalwart.
And like the two other things, and I'm sure we're going to get some of it in London, and I guess maybe that's why we don't get it here. But Ospreay, Sabre, I would have liked to see them. It's War of the Worlds. This is when you have those guys around, rather than me see Bruiser face Naito. I don't care if the match was solid. Bruiser is Bruiser. It is what it is. I don't want to see him wrestle one of the best in New Japan. Give that spot to someone else.
I get it. I mean, let's get into the shows one by one, and I guess we can address that matches like that. But yeah, with Ospreay and with Sabre, it's weird because previously you would think they had their New Japan alliance or commitments and things like that, mm-hmm. But then they all like Sabre had the Evolve contract, so that prevented him from wrestling for Ring of Honor or something like that. Now that neither of them are really tied to any U.S. companies, it's weird that they would not be showcased in some way.
Yeah, and I guess, maybe Ring of Honor doesn't want to bring them in because they're not going to be more a part of Ring of Honor, but the same can be said for every other Japanese guy that they brought in. So I don't know. I just I'm with you on, when it was Owens Nakamura, I remember being like, oh, I got to watch Owens versus this good Japanese guy. I'm not going to care because he's never going to become anything in the States. Well, how wrong I was.
Yeah.
But, it was still, I still knew that was a cool match. So I would have just liked to see more of those things on these shows because you don't have the New Japan guys there all the time. So when they're there, I would like to see them used, in good spots to let some other guys shine.
I totally agree. So night one was Wednesday night. By the way, this is the first time that they streamed all the shows. Normally they're placed on the VODs and you don't get to see them until a little bit after. Mm-hmm. Or actually, most of the time, one of the shows is a pay-per-view. Right. And then the others are VODs.
Saturday or whatever.
Yeah, so this was interesting that all three shows that were streamed, and then the fourth one is the tapings that are actually going on, will be happening tonight. So it's the first time that I can remember in a long time that one of them isn't showcased as a pay-per-view. And as we go through the cards, I think it makes a little sense why. So on Wednesday night, one thing that for me is a little weird, Rick Abani is he's the voice of Ring of Honor. I love what he brings to commentary. I mean, there are times where just the stuff that he and Colt get into, the references to Wild and Crazy Kids or something on Nickelodeon or some random song, Groove is in the Heart or whatever from the 90s, pop me like crazy. And if I'm not even enjoying the match that much, their commentary really raises it to another level. So having him have the first night off was a little off-putting. But you started the show off with the Briscoes versus Flip and Liger. Actually, the crowd seemed like pretty excited for this opener, and I feel like the structure of the match towards the end, there were a couple times where I actually felt like, oh, wait a minute, is there a chance, because it was a non-title match, that Gordon and Liger could win? Just a couple of false finishes that really got me. But they have the Briscoes showed off their new finisher here, the Redneck Boogie, which is like a razor's edge neckbreaker combo off the top rope, which was just kind of absurd. And then it's fun to see Liger.
Right. I mean, this was a fine match. Like you said, it was enjoyable. This was a cool pairing, right? Flip and Liger, that's fine. That was a fun team, going against the bully Briscoes, and so that was perfectly fine.
Then we had a tag match, Perazo and Skyler. I'm sorry, versus, I'm reading this wrong. So there was a women's tag match that came off second. I thought really, it was just done. It was Perazo and Dashwood. I'm reading this wrong.
No, Perazo and Skyler against Dashwood and Sakai.
I think you're right. Yep. And
because
really,
Dashwood wasn't really helping her and shit.
Yeah, it was just used to essentially really push the issue between Perazo and Kelly Klein, because she came out at the end, and they're kind of trying to set up more. They're trying to set up more challengers for the title. The idea that
they teased the tension with Dashwood and Sakai during the match, so that was fine to build to something with them too. And like you said, with Perazo and Klein, that was good.
And then Dashwood being back, I think, is a good thing for them too. At some point, I feel like the title has to be on her. Then Castle came out, and that's when he revealed that he had the injuries. Some people complain that if they knew that he was injured beforehand, that they should have announced it. I'm actually fine with this. I thought that for half a second it sounded like he was going to drop the title, and I felt bad that the reign would end this way. But basically, they were just kind of buying time for him not to be wrestling this week, rest up his injuries, and then come back and be able to continue to defend the title. And then it plays into the whole Kingdom conspiracy thing, where Taven, keeps getting screwed over by Ring of Honor management, essentially. So I was fine with this, and I thought that it set up later on, essentially, that Taven would get a chance. Taven and the Kingdom would get a chance to challenge for the six-man titles, and they're in his hometown. His grandpa was in the front row, so I thought that holding the information until the show was fine.
Yeah, you could have just done the same thing even if it was announced beforehand, but I don't know. I don't really see the big deal. I'm with you in that I thought he was going to drop the title, and so that tease made it okay that it was on the pay-per-view, because I was like, oh shit, what the hell is going to happen now? I guess you could have just said Castle will have an announcement, or I don't know. You could have said anything, but they didn't, and that's fine. It didn't matter to me. It didn't really bother me, other than that now the title wasn't going to be on these shows, and neither was Castle. So they lost two very big, important pieces of the company right now. So that was really unfortunate. But I think they did really well with what they had, especially on this first night. The Kingdom still had the tag match. There was a bunch of shenanigans. And then that led to them in the six-man, which you just kind of felt like they should win that. I wish that was the main event, but I'm still going to say that Matt Taven wanted to watch the end of the Celtics game, and so they put it on second to last, and that's fine with me because I can appreciate it. So.
Yeah, I'd say I agree there. I think it should have been the main event just because they could have had a little bit more faith that he would have been a little bit more over in winning the titles there. Obviously, the Young Bucks are super over, so that's I guess if you're worried about it,
then they did the thing with the Briscoes, right, to end it that night.
Yeah, so that was fine. The only thing I didn't like about the whole Kingdom stuff was during the tag match they did the under the ring stuff, and then they did the under the ring stuff again. Right. During the main event, and it's like, well,
yeah,
you
I think
did it
that
earlier.
Was just like a situation of, oh, we weren't prepared for this. Whoops, like, oh shit, we shouldn't have done that in the first match. But it was whatever. It was still a fun moment. I'm glad to see. I've been saying it since Orion got hurt that I wanted to see the Kingdom as a 6-man tag champ. So I can't in any way complain or bash it because that's the result I've been asking for. I'm glad it happened, and I'm looking forward to their reign.
Yep. Then we got Do You Know Who I Am? Bully Ray came out. Now listen, for all I've said about Bully Ray, this might be the best use of him just because I legit to me this is great. I love booing him. He's coming out and, everyone's booing him. It almost feels like the entire crowd is just totally against him. I'm not sure if, and the way the shows play out, we end up having this a couple of times, or the nights played out, but I'm not sure if Cheeseburger's the guy you're pushing from here, or is it really Gordon?
I guess it ends up, being Gordon coming to Cheeseburger's aid, like you're using Cheeseburger to get Gordon over. In a sense. It makes sense. You have Big Bad Bully Ray picking on the smallest, tiniest guy in the probably wrestling business. I don't know. I can't say that I care about, I don't like watching Bully, and it irritates me. So, I'm with you on that, and it's effective.
Yeah.
But I don't know that I care about Cheeseburger because of it, or that I care about Flip because of it. I'm not like, oh, thanks for getting rid of Bully. I'm just like, okay, can we just get rid of this whole thing?
The other thing is that Flip is not that much bigger than Cheeseburger, so it's funny that he's coming out to his defense. Right. And then after this, see, Cheeseburger's thing has always been that he's very thin, and but he's an underdog. But he's getting straight up destroyed by Bully Ray, and you just wonder moving forward after this angle goes down and everything, when you see Cheeseburger face another big guy, can you ever believe again that he shouldn't just get absolutely destroyed?
Well, but that's always what happens, and he'll fight in the other matches or when he's with Liger and all that kind of stuff, and I don't know. That's always how Cheeseburger's been. So he's putting up a fight. He continues to put up a fight every night, right? He keeps coming out. He's injured. He just keeps getting his ass kicked. So that's endearing itself. So I don't know.
Then we got 2 6-man tag matches after this. Roppongi 3K and Rocky Romero versus Cody, Page, and Skrull. And predictably, you had some Bullet Club dissension in the end. Cody manages to take the pinfall. To score the pinfall, and then they win. So even though there's dissension, he's the leader, and he ends up winning the match for them. So it's fine. It was fine. Nothing I thought spectacular, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Silas, BRC Bruiser, and Brian Malonis versus Naito, Evil, and Sonata. This is another one. Another 6-man tag. It was fine. I think it was clear that Naito, Evil, and Sonata were going to win when we talked about it. I believe last time going into it, possibly I thought Malonis was going to take the pin. That's who took the pin. Nothing really much to write home about here. I liked White versus Lethal versus Chucky T. It had to be changed around because of they were supposed to be in a match originally against, I think it was SoCal, but because of the Dalton Castle injury, things were changed. I really liked that Chuck Taylor basically just hung around and tried to win the match, and then eventually did. Like, he basically didn't do a lot during the match, and then just snuck in and took the pinfall. So I thought that was really, that seems to be in character with him.
Yeah.
And then we talked about the six-man title match. I was happy with the winners, as predicted, because I'm kind of a Kingdom fan. I won't lie. And Bucks versus Bushi and Takashi. It was fun. I thought, like, they really went all out here, but at the same time, I really, you have the Young Bucks in the main event. It's not for the titles. I feel like the Bucks are going to win here.
Man, all of these shows are like just mushed into one because I would have fought you to the death saying that like White and Punishment was on night one and that Colt was in the main event of night one. But nope, neither of those things happened.
It's I could actually see your face as you were like, wait a minute, why is he mentioning these matches?
I was like, wait, what? Those were the matches? Huh?
Then, so speaking of White versus Punishment, that started off night 2, which was actually Friday night. I was expecting a little bit more. I thought it was a good opener, but I just thought after the match they had in Vegas, which I thought was great. I mean, granted, it was like a Las Vegas street fight before Jay White went back to New Japan and adopted the Switchblade gimmick. That was a really great match. I thought that it was going to be a little bit more of the same here, and instead, which set up a kind of a theme running through the rest of the tour. You had Page coming out and distracting him, and he cost him the match.
Right. I mean, you knew Punishment wasn't, or most likely wasn't, going to win the title from White, but I was enjoying the match. I was into both guys, but coming out of it after the Page stuff, then I didn't care again. I would have rather, just see a decisive finish and go from there. And I get it. You did the right thing, keeping Punishment strong. They made the right move. But it just took away from a match that I was enjoying.
Yeah, I mean, I think also, maybe I'm wrong here, but I feel like Page is battling an injury as well. So they...
Oh, I'm not surprised because he goes balls to the wall in every single match. He's got to slow down.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, that guy's crazy. But, I just, in Lakeland, they never had a match. Martinez had attacked him before their match. So you kind of had the seeds there.
Right, because then Page didn't wrestle.
Yes, but I think, and as we'll talk about the rest of the tour, it sounded like Page was really kind of hurt, and they were just trying to cover it up. And actually, we're going to get another injury on this night that's going to, affect the third night. Bully Ray beats up Cheeseburger again, blah, 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 blah. All right, that's it. Moving on. Naito, so your favorite match of the whole tour, Naito versus the Beer City Bruiser.
Nope.
Listen, it was a good match. Nope. It just wasn't the star match that you wanted. I understand. But
the Bruiser, what is the Bruiser ever going to do for them?
I mean, he could win the tag team championship.
Great.
I like Bruiser. He's a throwback, big-bellied, heel.
He's fine for what he is, but I just don't want to see him in these spotlight matches that I would rather watch anyone else. Gresham?
Well, yeah, I mean...
I don't, like, you know what I mean? Just, Gresham doesn't have to win either. Just put him in this match. Let him kill it. Have a good match with Naito. And then you move on. I don't know. I just, Bruiser is fine, like I said, for what he is. But the upside of it isn't as high as it is for someone like Gresham, or even if you want to put in Woods, or someone that means something to them, possibly in the future.
I will say that this Toronto show and the lack of people like Gresham, I mean on the tour in general, but you had Coast to Coast the night before. They've been essentially undefeated since they faced War Machine a couple months ago when they thought they were going to break up and everything. it felt like Ring of Honor just didn't want to bring more people over the border.
Well, I don't know. And there was travel issues, right, on one or two of those.
Well, yeah, you end up not having Flip Gordon show up. I think, as you said, the Knights mesh. Yeah, so Gordon's flight was delayed, and he wasn't able to show up here. Which at one point, basically, B.J. Whitmer comes out and he says to Colt Cabana, "They want you in the back," and then he's just got to go. You know, they didn't say anything, but it was kind of a dead giveaway that they needed to use Cabana.
Yeah, and so I didn't see that part. So I just came back and I was like, oh, like, why the hell did they take Colt off for the second half of commentary? This is dumb. And then I saw him in the main event. I was like, oh, okay, fine.
Oh, okay.
But, back to what we were saying, yeah, I don't know if it was, expensive flights for the New Japan guys, having guys on the road for 6 days. So I really don't know why certain other guys weren't around. But I would like to see that, more in the future. I get it. War of the Worlds is one of their, more marquee things. So some guys don't get that flight and booking. But, I really think it would benefit them to have, just put guys that are going to mean something for them in the near and long-term future, in those matches.
What was cool was that they had the Super Smash Brothers take on the Young Bucks. I'm not going to lie here. I'm not going to pretend that I knew who they were, to be honest with you. You were excited about it, I just, honestly, for me, it was they're called the Super Smash Brothers. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I can't believe that, you never heard of them because, they were old school PWG, when Generico and Owens, they were that era. So it was cool to see them in ROH, and it's been a long time since I've really seen them in PWG. I think Eva Luno was they had. And it was cool to see the Young Bucks have the old school match. I'm willing to bet if you look through some of those old PWG shows, you'll probably find a pretty similar match. But that's what this is all about. So it was fun seeing them, and it's it sucks because the tag division is such a huge part of Ring of Honor. But it's fun when a team like the Smash Brothers gets a shot in that tag division because of its story history. So while it's a little thin at the moment, bringing in some teams like that every now and again, or hopefully eventually someone who sticks around, that's fun.
So we got that was for me. So it was probably one of the top 3 matches of the tour easily. Some great back scratching in there too. I really liked it, and I'd love to see them again. I mean, I'd never seen them before. That PWG area is when you were getting me to go to Ring of Honor shows, and I didn't know what the hell was going on, and I'd be like, "Oh, look, it's Shelton Benjamin and Charlie Haas." I'd pop for the wrong guys. So. Or not the wrong guys, but just, I didn't know much about what I was seeing. So these guys are great, and I'd like to see them come back, just definitely down the road. We had Women of Honor, another tag match. It's interesting. I feel like the whole weekend, or the whole tour, they didn't have any singles women's matches. But they brought in 2 new talents, Alexia Nicole and Zandra Bale versus Jenny Rose and Tenille Dashwood. I have a feeling you missed this match. Was this a show you started late?
Right, and I think, most of the shows I ended up fast forwarding, catching up because I was behind. So this might have been one of those sacrifices. But I think it's similar when you look at the WWE with the women's revolution and all of that. At first, that's what it was. Here, let's get 10 of these women on TV. So that, they're all kind of getting some spotlight. No one is getting all of it, but they're all getting a part of it. So that's fine. Introduce everyone, build them up, give them some backstory, and then hopefully it starts to slow down. And, it took some time, but now look, WrestleMania had, 2 women's matches. The women were featured in other things. They had a Battle Royal, Money in the Bank, the Royal Rumble. So, it takes time. When ROH is starting this literally from scratch in the last 6 months. So
Yeah.
Give it some time. They only have really a handful of women at the moment. So hopefully they're able to find some gems out there that WWE hasn't already signed.
Oh, 100%. This one, it was a little rough. I didn't think the teams really had the chemistry that I would have liked to see here. So this wasn't the strongest women's tag match I've seen before. Moving on, you had Soul Count Censored versus Rocky Romero, Show and Yo. I love Rocky Romero. I loved it for clotheslines. This wasn't like super great, but it was a good match. Daniels is always good when he does.
Yeah, was this when Daniels and them were like pushing each other and that? Or was that the next night?
I believe that's the next night.
Daniels and like when Kaz, when Kaz was like doing the arm bars.
Yeah. That was a little bit more comedy. We'll get to that. That one was good. As we talked about with Paige being protected a little bit here, Martinez attacked him, and beat the crap out of him. Now I would have been totally fine with Young then immediately beating him, like right away, and they actually stretched it out a little bit more, and Paige took some punishment, and then I didn't mean to do that, but anyway, Young was able to control for most of the time. Paige had a couple of his moves. The crazy bastard still went with the moonsault off the top rope to the outside, which is like, no matter what's going wrong with you right now, that's not a great idea. But that dude's got guts. Or, we could call it something else, but I was impressed by that. But Young ends up winning the match, and it really wasn't a surprise, especially with the way it started off.
Right.
Cody versus Liger. Man, I don't see why we needed a rough bump here. Liger, to me, this was the match that I thought could have easily been one of the worst on the cards, just looking at it, because I haven't seen Liger really do one-on-one matches a lot. Just personally, I just don't see a lot of it. Usually I see him in Ring of Honor, something very short. This felt like a upper card part of the match. Part of the whole tour. And he really was delivering here. But then there's the ref bump, which I don't really get. Then you got 2 chairs brought in. Liger uses a chair. Cody kicks out of that. And then ends up hitting Crossroads.
Yeah, I'll disagree with you on the fact that this was one of the matches I was really looking forward to. It's Cody against Liger. It's just cool. So, this is the War of the Worlds that I enjoy seeing. Where it's Japanese legend against American legend or American Nightmare, haha. But this was one of those things that Liger is Liger. It wasn't going to be bad. Cody is so good at being the heel. He was gonna make Liger the ultimate underdog and play off of all of that. So I really enjoyed this. Yes, they got a little too much at the end, little good old dusty finish, but it is what it is.
And then your main event was Takahashi Evil Sonata with Bushi. This was the changed match because Gordon wasn't there and Castle was hurt. So you had Lethal, Kenny King, and Colt Cabana. I've never seen Bushi do that backslide to the ref so that he could do the poison mist. Is that normal?
Couldn't really tell you.
It's just such a smart thing, The ref is like, "What the hell are you doing?" He's not technically hitting him, but he's stopping the ref from seeing what he's about to do. Right. I just think it's such a smart move.
Yeah, I'm not. Bushi is one of those guys who gets thrown into a lot of 5, 8, 10 man whatever tags on bigger shows, so you don't always get to see him, shine. And as we've talked about multiple times, those are the matches where we tend to tune out a little bit more than normal.
Yeah, listen, yeah.
But with this one, I love watching Colt Cabana. He always does something that's entertaining. So the stuff with Daryl was just fantastic.
So good.
I really enjoyed that. Takahashi is really good at that kind of just. I don't want to say subtle comedy because, like, obviously he's trying.
Yeah.
But just that kind of stuff with Daryl and those little things are entertaining.
100%. I mean, and it's cool. It's really cool that Ring of Honor's got Cabana on there. I'm sure that he'd like to be wrestling. That he wrestles in other places. He's really good on commentary, so that's why I'm not going to come out here and say that I want him full time back in the ring. But every once in a while, I like seeing him come back there. Honestly, the only reason I'm saying that is because I love him so much on commentary with Riccaboni that I just don't want that. I don't want to miss that.
Right. And of course, it would be great seeing him out there wrestling every week. But if he's Jerry Lawler for Ring of Honor, then that's pretty freaking awesome. He's been there, since the beginning. He's seen it all with them. So I think him being able to bring the history there, as well as his comedy side on commentary, and then, as we're seeing maybe with the Bully Ray stuff, or we can see, when he needs to fill in, or other instances like that, he can always get involved and have that match and have a rivalry and have a little thing. So, it would be great. But yeah, it's also great that he's still able to wrestle everywhere else and do that to fulfill that. I'm sure at first, at the moment, maybe it's not the greatest thing he wanted to be doing, but I know he enjoys it. So hopefully, it gets better for him.
Yeah, and he definitely, if you listened to the episode from last week, I think, Cabana show, or maybe it was this week's, where he basically said, like, yeah, I'll be one of the World Wars doing commentary, and you never know, maybe something else. So it felt like it was always in the cards, at least because Castle was injured and not because of Gordon's flight issues.
Right.
And then we're on to night 3. We're almost there, bud. We got Evil versus Shane Taylor. Basically, I thought this was going to be a hard-hitting match from the get-go. I didn't think that we'd see Evil, win or actually, pin 3 guys over the tour. I thought that Taylor could have used the win here, but this seems like the typical New Japan rising Ring of Honor guy formula, right? You have a good match. Like, I've seen other guys have. No? You haven't seen, what I'm saying is,
Taylor's in the same mold as Bruiser, in my mind.
Oh, man. All right.
He's fine, but I don't see him as the next big thing for Ring of Honor. And Evil has that kind of quality for New Japan, where he's one of the next guys up. So, yeah, it would have been nice to see him go against, one of Ring of Honor's next guys up. But I get it. This was like a size thing, and it was, a physical match. So it was fine.
I don't really like Evil, so I want to see him lose. I won't lie. All
That's
right.
because Watanabe was terrible.
Oh, yeah. God. I can't even, you just said the name, but if you paid me on another day, if you just said, hey, what was Evil's other name, I wouldn't even remember. We got another Women of Honor tag match, Dashwood and Rose versus Sakai and Stella Gray. And basically, Sakai ends up... Gray actually was hit with an Uranagi by Rose. They're setting up Jenny Rose to be the first title contender. I think she's going to get a match at the tapings tonight while we're taping this episode. So afterwards, there was a little bit of disrespect. Rose presented the title. Sakai got angry. They pushed each other a little bit. So all in all, it was a vehicle to do what they needed to do.
Right, and I think that's where. Not that it's backwards, but that's where that last show could feel, I don't know, not the greatest, because you're setting up things for the next night on TV, not necessarily for the next big show. You know what I mean? Right, Show and Yo got or the 6-man or the tag titles, whatever, they're number 1 contenders, right?
Yeah.
So you got to figure that happens tonight too, right? They're in town. They're there, it would make sense to put them on the TV tape. So something like that, you think, okay, they're building that for tomorrow, and then coming out of those TV tapings, I'm sure we'll have Briscoe's Bucks setting up for Best in the World or whatever.
Oh, easily, yeah. Then we had Punishment versus Adam Page. This never started. Page ambushed Martinez and basically just destroyed him. Again, protecting Page. Nothing much there. I really like the four-corner survival match. Kenny King versus Matt Taven versus Sonata versus Skrull.
Yeah, that was good. Marty was on fire. And I like the spot where he couldn't figure out how to tie him up.
Oh, man, that was...
that was just awesome. Sonata is another, he's Ring of New Japan's next up. So this was the World of Worlds formula. I would have loved to see. I don't know where Skrull was on night one, but I would have loved to see like a Skrull Sonata, Skrull Evil, something like that, where both of these guys are like, oh man, this is going to be a cool one.
Yeah, and I thought the ending was really well thought out. I mean, to have King have Sonata locked in the last Chancery, Taven hit Skrull to climax. He's got the pinfall, but Todd Sinclair doesn't notice it at all because he's looking at the submission. Taven gets frustrated, goes up, kind of pushes Sinclair and like asks him why he's not paying attention, and then Marty turns around and hits him, kicks him in the junk, and then wins via small package. So super villain move. Taven can continue legitimately saying that he gets screwed over by Ring of Honor. I mean, I just think it was smart all around.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this forward.
And then this another match that I really liked on the tour, Motor Machine Guns versus Young Bucks versus Roppongi 3K. It's one of the few times that if you guys watch the show that I actually got a shout out on Ring of Honor television because I pointed out the unfair advantage really the Young Bucks have here as a heavyweight tag team versus the junior tag teams here in Roppongi 3K and the Motor Machine Guns.
Yeah, I guess you could point out that there's 4 against 2 then. So the strength advantage is a little bit negated. But yeah, point taken.
But I really like this match. I mean, this match was what I think, like on paper when you look at it, it made sense what was going to happen here.
Right. I'm with you on that. I really enjoy this match. This is 3 fast-paced teams. It was never going to be a boring match.
And then Roppongi 3K actually picks up the win, which I think was like smart. They pinned the Guns, so the Bucks don't lose any luster. So they're smart booking all around.
And you have the I'm sure Show and Yo are in the Best of Super Juniors along with Chris Sabin, so you can always play off the result of this match. In whatever singles match they have there.
I'm pretty hyped about that, about Sabin being in the Super Juniors.
Yeah, it's cool that he's getting that, maybe for the last time.
Yeah. Then, I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. This was a filler match. They didn't, because of injuries and stuff, and they had the boys versus Silas Young and Beer City Bruiser. Look, I don't know.
Yeah, that was just kind of whatever.
I'm not going to be able to get behind the boys unless they have names.
I don't care that they're the boys. I think that's good. Boy 1, boy 2. That's how it should be.
I can't. I don't want to write the review on it. Like, I don't even like writing up the review. Like, I just can't.
What's the difference?
Because they switch up who's boy 1 and boy 2.
So what's the difference between the boys and the Bruiser? He doesn't have a name.
What do you mean? He's the Beer City Bruiser. It's not like you have Beer City Bruiser 1 and Beer City Bruiser 2 and they're twins.
They might as well with Malonis. At least his name is Brian Malonis.
They're not twins. Listen, give these guys names. I don't care what it is. Not Boy 1 and Boy 2. I don't think that Boy 1 and Boy 2 should win a match. And then during the match, they're like...
They don't.
They kept pointing out that they've been champions. They're like, well, these guys are champions. Like, they actually took a hot dump, I thought, on Beer City Bruiser, and they're like, well, Silas Young is a TV champion. The boys are former 6-man champions. Bruiser's the only guy in the ring who hasn't held gold. And I'm like, wow. Wow.
Correct. It's not a lie.
Dalton won those titles. Okay, Dalton was a 6-man champion. Not. Let's not forget that.
Who were the 6-man champions?
I'm not gonna.
Just like Nicholas is a former Raw Tag Team
Jesus
champion.
Christ, I can't even believe that. All right. Next match, Soka Uncensored versus Liger, Gordon, and Cheeseburger. This was the comedy match we spoke about earlier, where at one point Kaz and Sky had their backs turned. And Daniels kept, I think he was feeding Liger to them, and they were basically cranking his arm over the ropes. So then Liger then turned the tables, and they were doing it now to Daniels, right? And they don't notice. But Kaz just keeps going, and everybody is basically outside the ring. And the best moment obviously is when Liger is finally outside the ring, and somehow Kaz can't hear Daniels going like, "Yo, stop hurting my arm," and he just kind of starts to slow down as he's looking at Liger, but doesn't really. That was comedy gold. He was just like, "Wait a minute, I'm still doing this, but I don't understand how Liger is standing right in front of me." And then it finally dawned on him. Look, it doesn't. I don't think every match on the card has to be 4 or 5 stars. Some of it can just be entertaining, and that's what this was, and I liked it.
Exactly, and this is where you'll have people crying and complaining that this isn't wrestling, and this is what kills the credibility and blah. This is hilarious. It's funny. 99% of people that watch wrestling know the deal. So when you see stuff like this, you enjoy it for the pure comedy that it is. You enjoy. It was really well done. I enjoyed it. Like you said, it was funny. And then Liger came around, and just Liger thumbs up and pointing at him, and then Kazarian slowing down, keeping going. It was all really good. And then the stuff with Sky in the ring, and they're pushing each other. He gets drop kicked. It was perfect. It was, Kazarian and Daniels are 2 of the best in-ring competitors, but they're also hilarious. So let them do those things every now and then when they're not in a championship match, Did
you, I don't know if you caught during the match on commentary, Cabana and Riccaboni talking about Liger's hair and how he keeps it so nice?
Yes.
And I was like...
I also laughed when Riccaboni said that, yes.
It was like, wow, nice.
I wonder how Liger keeps his hair so fresh. That's hilarious because he sits on Japanese commentary with no hair, so that's awesome.
Yeah, I just like that little inside thing. If you don't get it, you don't get it. If you do, it's that much better.
Right, it's fun. Yep.
Cody versus Takahashi.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean...
The Bear and Daryl pull apart.
That was... Dude...
Also great.
I don't know if the crowd was hotter for any moment the entire weekend.
Yeah, let them go.
Than Daryl and Bernard. I mean, and Daryl just... Takahashi just playing like Daryl's just uncontrollable, right? Everybody's holding him. That was a fun moment. The only thing that for me, it's I feel like every Cody match has this wait time of starting. It kind of takes 5 minutes to get started, really, and it's just becoming a little formulaic. That I just wish sometimes we could skip that. But I thought him going for the V trigger and the Rise of the Terminators and then flipping off the crowd was good. I was like, oh, he's really going to do it. And then he just, double bird.
And I think, that was the issue that I had with Cody when he first came on the Indies, that everything was kind of, the same pace. But he's really picked it up after that. And his character has just ballooned. And the stuff he's doing in the ring, clearly he has so much more confidence than when he first started on the Indies again. So I'm enjoying that. I always like watching Takahashi. He gets better and better every time you see him. They had a good match. They had the comedy stuff. All that was out of the way. They did the stuff with the ring, right? That was this one.
Yeah.
So, it was enjoyable. Again, Takahashi, Cody, perfect War of the Worlds match.
And then your main event was the Briscoes versus Naito and Bushi. This kind of felt like a little bit... The match wasn't a letdown. It was just...
why the main?
Yeah, that's what it is. It just... But then again, if you look at this card, what do you put in the main?
Well, that's part of the problem, right?
I mean, you had injuries. Lethal got injured. So basically, you have Lethal injured, you have Castle injured, you have
What was
Page
Castle's
injured.
match on this show?
I'm not going to tell you I remember off the top of my head. I'm not even sure if he was booked, because I feel like at that point, it was almost like he was going to be in that four-way, he was going to defend the title, and then that was it. Because they knew he was injured going into it. So they didn't make more match announcements. But I'm fine.
Yeah, he might have made an
I mean,
announcement.
what would we have gotten? We would have gotten a title defense against somebody that he wouldn't have earned it along. So, we would have complained about that too.
I don't know if I would have gotten Castle Sonata in the main event of Night 3. I would have enjoyed that.
But you didn't
Very
like
much so, I think.
Cody Sonata.
But at the time, Sonata wasn't.
So he's more there now?
I think he's. Yeah. Now
okay. All right.
Maybe it's just me personally, but now I'm more ready and accepting to see that there. But my problem with Cody Sonata was also, what was that, Manhattan Mayhem or something like that? Like
that was a UK tour, I think.
Okay, so like War of the Worlds is the point of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's when you bring in those Japanese guys to get their shots or to do things like that, to have the literal War of the Worlds. So, they're more acceptable on these shows, I guess. But all of that said, I enjoyed the majority of these 3 nights. Looking forward to see where they go with the TV tapings and that sort of thing. And I don't know. I'm a big fan of Honor Club. I definitely enjoy being able to watch these shows, for my yearly fee, and that's that.
And I'll say it every time. Probably for a couple months more at least, I enjoy being able to talk to somebody about the shows that normally I would watch alone, like 6 hours straight. Yeah, sad and depressed on a Sunday, just not talking to anybody, sitting here watching 6 hours of VOD and writing reviews, and then not even seeing reviews of anybody else's. I mean, on PW Ponderings where I put up the reviews, there's somebody else actually putting up reviews of the same show. So that's like crazy. Like, oh my God, somebody else on the site is even watching it. So I like it. I always temper my expectations. I mean, I always went into the VODs with a certain, like, these are a little house showy, and I kind of felt the same way going into this. When I knew that one of the shows wasn't a pay-per-view, I was like, okay, so if you're not calling it an official pay-per-view, then there's a certain standard, I don't expect it to be an A-plus show.
But do they have pay-per-views anymore, or everything is just on Honor Club?
No, I mean, everything's on Honor Club, but they'll offer, like, the other thing on Fight for, like, $30 or something. Yeah. It's just the VIP level gives us everything.
Oh, okay, so, like, Fight. Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
It wasn't, like, separately on other things. Right. So, I mean, I guess this was probably the first time in a few years, right, that hasn't...
Yeah, at least since I've been covering.
So maybe they, like you said, maybe they went into it knowing... All right, we don't have the Okadas and Tanahashis or Nakamura's or things like that that we used to. So let's not make this pay-per-view. Let's make these more about, some of our guys, which, again, would have been nice to see them in some better matchups. But I enjoyed them all. I'm looking forward to continuing to watch things on Honor Club and see more of these shows that I wouldn't have seen before.
100%. All right, so you want to spend about 4 minutes going over the WWE shows this week?
Yeah, I mean, I the main event of Raw, when Reigns was in it, I literally shut it off. I was like, all right, maybe they'll get the message if, like, everyone just stops watching when Reigns comes out. And so I did it myself. That's fine. I'll be the only one. But yeah, so I didn't watch that. I figured that Balor would be the one to get that win because Reigns doesn't need to be in Money in the Bank. So who do we get? Braun, Balor.
Yep.
And then we got Rusev on SmackDown.
Yep.
And The Miz?
Let me just check. I believe so. I was looking at the Raw card. I mean, and also, by the way, a lot of people were complaining that... The Miz qualified, and also Charlotte qualified on the women's side.
And just Charlotte? No.
Ember Moon qualified.
Charlotte did qualify? I thought Charlotte lost to someone.
No, she beat Peyton Royce by submission.
Oh, okay.
On Raw, Ember Moon defeated Ruby Riott and Sasha Banks to qualify.
Right. So, I mean, Ember Moon is a correct choice. Charlotte, I didn't know she needs to be in it, but that's fine. On the men's side, though, I'm really hopeful that this is Braun's moment, right? Like, Braun wins, just cashes in on Brock, like, at the end of Money in the Bank tour, whenever the hell he wants, right? And hopefully we get Braun as the champion.
I don't even know if you need Braun to win. I think I could make a case for
think
Rusev
it's
taking
easy.
it. Yeah, but man, imagine Rusev taking it.
Yeah, but like Braun is there. Like, Rusev would have to win it and then get there. You know, like
Yeah.
Rusev is over, but Rusev doesn't have the resume that
Can you
Braun
picture
has at the
Braun
moment.
carrying the suitcase though?
Well, but that's why he cashes in at the end of the
Oh, so
Money in the Bank,
because he can't carry that.
Right, like
He's-
Kane, you know?
Or unless he's
Kane
like
just won it
Naito.
and cashed in.
He just tosses the briefcase around like.
Well,
It would be
he's
even
not.
better if he just didn't have a
He
briefcase.
just throw the briefcase like out of the arena.
If he just takes the contract and puts it in his pocket. He's like, no, forget this.
I don't need this.
Because we never actually see the contract, do we? We always just see like
because
the
there's
briefcase.
not an actual contract because this is wrestling. But yeah, so I don't know. I'm a fan of the 4 guys that they put in and the 2 women that they put in, and we're just going to keep getting that build for the next few weeks. So that's fun. Money in the Bank is a big show. It
It's my
changes
birthday
a lot of
this year.
things. Oh, is it actually on it?
Yep. So
that's
no
cool.
excuse, buddy. Just calling you out there. Okay.
This is I'm not sure. My birthday was last week. There was no wrestling event. There was no pay-per-view. I'm not sure where how you get a 7 days worth of events, but
It's fantastic. It's Father's Day. It's my birthday.
All right.
It's going to be
Yes.
fantastic.
okay.
Yeah, no, but you got tons of shows this week.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and they were all enjoyable. So that was fine. I was just making the point that you weren't here watching those shows.
Well, there might be some surprises heading forward.
Sure.
All
So
right.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I didn't really take anything else away from. I don't even think I watched SmackDown. Yeah. So
Yeah, after the whole backlash thing, I think my backlash was I'm not really interested in your shows this week.
that's kind of what it was, and I think my basketball team, the Celtics, is in the playoffs, so there are a lot of games on those days that I just have to watch. So it is what it is.
It's nice when my NHL and stuff, my team leaves the playoffs, so I don't even know what's happening. So it's kind of exciting when I just peek in again. I heard the Golden Knights, the new franchise, might make it to the Stanley Cup Finals, and that's kind of exciting. And
Well, it's going to probably be the Jets, so
Richard
that might
Sherman-
be the only time in your lifetime that you get to see the Jets in the
by the
final.
way, close the comment. That son of a bitch, Richard Sherman, tweeted out, I never thought that the Jets would return to the conference finals without
Nice.
Mark Sanchez. And I started searching, I literally started looking
Like, what the
online
hell?
about the Jets. I was like, are they playing somewhere? What's happening? And then I realized it was the Winnipeg Jets, and I was like, this mother. I won't say that on
I'm
Mother's
glad to know
Day.
that I have the same intellectual jokes as a Stanford graduate. So yeah, we'll all just take that away from this podcast.
All right. Well, I think that wraps it up for us this week. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for all the new listeners. Really appreciate it. It's glad to have you guys aboard. Next week you guys get more of the same. You'll soon enough you'll get to hear Charlie back on the show. If you guys aren't already, please go ahead and follow us on Twitter at Running Wild Podcast. You guys can follow us on Twitter at Running Wild LWOS. You guys can follow us on Facebook at Running Wild on Wrestling. You can send us an email at runningwildpodcast@gmail.com. You can follow me on Twitter at Rich_Laconi and catch my Ring of Honor coverage over at pwponderings.com and ROHWrestling.com. And with that out of the way, to remind you that you've been listening to the podcast that is just too sweet.
For Rich ROH and Runz. This is the host of Ring of Honor Wrestling, Ian Riccaboni, signing off. Be sure to join them next week for another episode of the Running Wild podcast.
That's for too sweet.
Yeah. Sweet.
I went too sweet again.
Okay, una vez más. Sweet. And WWE's gonna sue us.